Hello, what's up, weirdos? How are you all doing tonight? The night before the last night of 2019. Wow. I hope you're enjoying my space buns. This is how I've been wearing my hair for basically since Christmas. I don't know why. I have these little clips and it makes my hair stay like this and I like it. Hello, Mark. Good job being the first one here. Well done. How's everyone doing? This is like a strange time of year, this little lull between the holidays and New Year's. It's sort of these few days where it's like it feels like you should be getting your life together, but you're also like basically sleeping all the time. I don't know about you. I don't have to go back to work until January 2nd, which is a huge blessing. Um, and so, yeah, I've been at home working on YouTube stuff and going to the gym and trying to be productive. And yesterday I did a pretty good job. Today I did an okay job up until a certain point. And I'm trying to be forgiving with myself because it is, it's this weird time of year. And I feel like a lot of people feel it. Hello, Teresa. And oh, Dark Brawl. Hello, Sarah. Yeah, it's just weird time of year. Today, I went to the gym. I felt great about that. I'm trying to do that more. Trying to put my health first this year, 2020 coming. And I did that. I started editing my video that's coming out on Wednesday, which is every horror movie coming out in 2020, which, lordy, there was a lot. So I've been editing that. And then all of a sudden, well, first of all, I need to watch Phantom of the Opera. Oh no, I just realized there's a wrong background. I didn't switch it. Can I switch it now? Hold on. Go away. Maybe I'll just make myself bigger. Is this fine? I'm just like editing this on the fly. I'll just be the full screen. It's just all me. Is that fine? I wonder if I'll see myself do that on here. Oh, I'm gone? Okay, yeah. Alright, great. And hello, Jay Donovan. Hey, Dan Breaker. And Dan Breaker said it. That's right. This is our last one of the year. It's pretty crazy. Anyways, what I was saying though, I started watching Phantom of the Opera, and then I started going down this weird rabbit hole. And let me know if anyone else does this, or if I'm crazy. I go on Zillow, which is like a house website for like house listings, and I start just typing in random cities across America that maybe I would want to live one day, and just start looking at houses as though I'm gonna buy them, which of course I am not. And it turns into this thing where all of a sudden like 2 hours will go by, and I'm like, what did I even do? So yeah, I definitely didn't get everything off my to-do list. I'm hoping this live stream will sort of spark me back into it, and afterwards I can do the dishes, because that was a big one today. I really wanted to do the dishes, and dang it, they're still just sitting there. But anyways, today we have a double feature. Thank you all so much for allowing the week off last week for me to spend some extra time with my family. I hope you all had a really excellent holiday. And so today we're talking about two movies, and I think it actually worked out quite well, because we're talking about Phantom of the Opera, the 1925 silent film, and then we're going to move on to Wolfman, 1941. And the thing that these two movies have in common is that they have a father and son as the stars. So Lon Chaney, who you'll recognize by Man of a Thousand Faces, perhaps, but he was a big, famous actor that was known for doing his own makeup and creating these characters, most notably Phantom of the Opera and Hunchback of Notre Dame. And so he was very known for that, and he had a son, Lon Chaney Jr., who did not start acting until a little bit later in life, but then sort of took over his father's place, not his place, but, came in, and after his father's death, and started doing these monster roles at Universal. So they both work for Universal. And it is sort of interesting that these are the ones that we're talking about today. So, has anyone seen these? Let me know in the chat. I want to know, have you seen either of these? Either The Phantom of the Opera or Wolfman, or both? I think I've said this in past live streams about this, but I got the Universal box set. It went on this huge Amazon sale a while ago, And so I ordered them because I had really only seen bits and pieces of them. I hadn't really sat down and watched them. So this Horror Movie Club month was a really good opportunity to do that. And what I found funny today was, so I'd already watched Wolfman a few days ago, and then when I went to watch Phantom of the Opera, I looked at the cover of the one I had, and I was like, this doesn't look like Lon Chaney. And I was like, what Phantom of the Opera is this? And I was like, oh, this is from like 1940 something. And I was like, well, why isn't the other one in there? And then I was like, maybe that wasn't Universal. Maybe I'm confused. I only know so much. And then I found out that basically the original Phantom of the Opera went into the public domain because the copyright holder sort of dropped the ball at a certain point, and so I guess it didn't. There was no need to put it in this Universal box set, and you can just watch it on YouTube. So I did watch it on YouTube, and oh, we do have some people that have seen them, so that's awesome. Jay Donovan owns both of them. Oh, Andreas Diaz, hello, how are you? Thanks for being here. Let's see, Mark says, I have both them. Wolfman is one of my all-time favorites, and that's awesome. So let's start with Phantom of the Opera. Okay, so this came out in 1925, and the first thing I noticed about this movie, which I know is a strange thing to notice, but it was the runtime. I pulled up the YouTube link, and there are a few. Some are better than others. Some are blurry, so if you found a blurry one, just keep looking. But it was so much longer than the rest of the Universal pictures. Most of them, I've noticed, are around 70 minutes or so. And Phantom of the Opera was, like an hour and a half or something. Maybe not. I mean, it was more than that. Hold on, let me look. Runtime. Phantom of the Opera, 1925. Oh, God, I love the internet being at my disposal. It's an hour and 47 minutes. And I saw that and I was like, whoa, I'm going to have to watch an hour and 47 minutes of a silent film? I honestly was like, that might be a lot. And it turns out it kind of was. I looked up some of the initial critic responses of this, which is sort of a fun thing to do for really old movies, just to see how they play at the time. Because sometimes we get this thing in our head where we're just like, oh, well, I bet audiences at the time thought it was the best thing they've ever seen because they'd never seen anything good before it. And that's not always true. Phantom of the Opera, and this is what I found most interesting about it, is there was basically 3 versions of it. There was the first version that was directed by Rupert Julian, who apparently was very difficult to work with. At a certain point on set, him and Lon Chaney just weren't even speaking anymore, and they had to have someone. It was literally like preteen kids fighting. It was like somebody, he would be like, hey, can you go tell Lon Chaney to do this? And Lon Chaney would be like, okay, well, can you go tell him that I said this? Which I find just hilarious. And basically, by the end of it, a lot of the cast and crew were just done talking to him because they were so mad. And the initial rough cut of this first version was 4 hours long. That's too long. That's too long. So obviously the studio was like, we're not going to do that, so you need to cut it down. And he did. And then when they first showed the movie in Los Angeles, the audience basically thought it was too melodramatic. And it was really made into the intention was to have a drama thriller thing going on. Obviously, Lon Chaney's Phantom of the Opera makeup is really scary. I honestly, and it surprised me how effective it still was watching this movie. There was a few things that worked really well, but I will get to that in a little bit. But so that was that first version, and then people didn't like it that much, so they said, okay, hold it. They canceled their New York screening of it, and they were like, we're going back to work. We're gonna go back and fix this. So they brought in Edward Sedgwick to come in, and he did a bunch of reshoots. And the reshoots basically turned this movie into like a romantic comedy, which I find also very funny to like have this as a romantic comedy. Like, how? Also, hello, Ben. What's going on? And then they didn't really like that version either, and so they have a third version, which is basically they brought in 2 people just to edit, so there were no more reshoots, and that was Maurice Pereira and Lois Weber. I think. Can't read my own handwriting. And they sort of edited together. They got rid of most of the Sedgwick reshoots and cut down a lot of just the original Rupert Julian footage. And it came to what we now have today. But I couldn't believe it went through such a process. And Jay Donovan said in the chat here, he really enjoys the third act underneath the opera house, but it seems to drag during the second act. I definitely felt like this movie went on forever. It was so much slower than I could have imagined. And what's funny is some of the more iconic moments, and maybe, I don't know if all of you know this, but I am a musical theater nerd, so I do also have a lot of knowledge of Phantom of the Opera, the musical, and and so a lot of the things that I recognized from that happened quite early on in the film, and those things I thought worked really well. Particularly, I would say three things particularly. One, the chandelier drop. I thought that was really awesome in the movie, and what I thought was scary about that scene was not even that the chandelier dropped, was that when you see all the patrons running out of the theater, it's a stampede. Literally, you see someone like fall down and get trampled, and I'm like, was that planned? Like, I don't know. But it's actually like a little frightening in that sense of like the crowd. And so I thought that worked really well. The other thing that worked really well is Lon Chaney's makeup. So, most people know this, but he did do his own makeup. He created the look for this, and apparently it's quite close to the book. So Phantom of the Opera was based on a book by Gaston Leroux. It is from 1910. It is called Les Fantômes de l'Opéra. And it's a novel, and so in that novel it talks about the Phantom being this sort of skull-like creature with little wisps of black hair, but not a full head of hair. And I think Lon Chaney really like created that look quite well. And if you guys haven't seen a picture or haven't seen Phantom, I do highly encourage you to look up, even just on Google Image real quick, to see what I'm talking about. But it's really pretty awesome. Okay, so another thing about the makeup is that it was kept under lock and key in terms of what it looked like until the movie premiered. It wasn't in any of the promotional stuff, which I think is fun. They really kept it a secret. And also, they even kept it a secret on set where the actress playing Christine, let me just make sure I say the right actress's name. Is it Mary? Let's see. Yeah, Mary Philbin. Oh, she's so beautiful. Oh my god, she is so lovely. And she's very lovely in this movie, so I'm on her Wikipedia page right now. But anyways, she even didn't know what the makeup looked like until Lon Chaney took off his mask during the actual scene, and the gasp, like the reaction she has, is very is real, is because she had never seen it before, and I feel like that's the thing that people do in horror movies nowadays, where it's like they didn't see him till the day they filmed it. Well, what was The Descent? Did you guys watch The Descent? It's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. It really scares me because there's a lot of cave crawling in between tight spaces, and I'm a little bit claustrophobic, so very scary for me. But those monsters in the movie that are just so well done, the actors didn't see them until the scene where they encounter them, which I thought was really cool. Okay, so so makeup not seen until the premiere. Still, they had to go back and do all those reshoots, but that's okay. One little fun fact, this is very random, but I found it, and I love haunted shit, so that's what I'm going to mention really quick. Soundstage 28, where the Opera House was built in for this. Part of the Opera House still exists today, and it stood in Soundstage 28 until 2014, and they say that every time they tried to remove it, there were fatalities, and so eventually, at some point, they just stopped trying to remove it and just left it there. And they did use it in quite a few movies afterwards. There was one. Ooh, what was that one? There was one movie that I wanted to mention that they said, can't remember. I might be able to find it quickly, but I also probably can't, so I'm not going to. But they did end up tearing down that soundstage in 2014, but they kept the part of the opera house intact and just removed it because it's haunted, and you don't mess with haunted stuff, people. Just so you know, don't do it. Okay. You can't say Oh, also, I wanted to mention that after that first screening, where they decided to go back into production, Rupert Julian, it is very unclear on whether he was fired or whether he walked away from the production because of the bad reviews. We're not super sure about that, but yeah. And then the last part of the movie that I did also want to mention I thought worked really well for me was the just the underwater, I mean, not the underwater, the boat stuff under the theater. I always think that is so, such interesting imagery, and I really like it. But I thought that worked really well. And all of the sequences where Christine is held captive by the Phantom actually feel a little bit frightening to me. And it feels, I mean, it's this interesting thing because I listen to so much true crime now. The last like 2 years I've just been obsessed with true crime, and it is this thing where Christine has to like play nice to the Phantom so she doesn't like destroy her, and she wants to get out of there, but she needs him to let her out, so she has to be nice to him. And the one thing that when he finally is going to let her out, says, "I will let you go, but you can no longer you can never be with Raoul again, who is the man that Christine is in love with, because the Phantom is ultimately in love with Christine, and will do anything for her, and including kidnap her," which, that it's not going to work, but that's what he does. And so eventually lets her go, and it's after he lets her go that I feel like the movie gets quite slow. And a little bit boring, because we're not dealing with Christine and the Phantom anymore. We're dealing with like other stuff going on. And I will be so honest with you that by the third act, I was so deep into Zillow, I don't even know if I paid that much attention. And I know that's, not kind of me as the leader of this horror movie club, but I got really bored, and that's just what that is. But yes. Something else I want to mention about Lon Chaney that I think is interesting in terms of him being such a silent film era star. And first of all, he was not a silent film era star at first. If you look at his list of credits, he did like a million bajillion movies, most of which are lost, by the way, which I never know how that happened. I'm like, how did all these movies get lost? Where are those films? Maybe they weren't very good. Maybe they got trashed. I don't know. But it really wasn't until later on in his career, which happened to a lot of these actors in these Universal monster movies. It's these men that are later in their career that take on these monster roles that make them these huge characters that live in people's heads forever, and thus makes the actor famous for it. We talked about it with Bela Lugosi, we talked about it with Boris Karloff, and Lon Chaney seems to be kind of like the first one that did that. And maybe there were more that I don't know about, but at least in terms of the Universal monsters. Oh, Jay Donovan, thank you for saying that. Okay. Jay Donovan said that you really like that he's just a monster and he doesn't have any redemption. That's rare, especially in the classics. In that first cut of the movie, apparently, the ending that they had was that at Christine at some point was going to kiss the Phantom, and then he was going to be transformed into a good man. And that's what a lot of the audience felt was very cheesy about it, and they felt like that was like, it didn't work. So they actually did have a different ending at a certain point, and I think they did go through quite a few endings before they got the one they ended up with. But that was in there, which I think is interesting. And the other thing about Lon Chaney in terms of these characters he played is that he created these amazing and horrific makeups, and yet in the same thing that we see later on with like Boris Karloff and Frankenstein, we have some amount of sympathy for these characters, even though the Phantom is just a monster doing bad things, and he doesn't have any redeemable qualities necessarily. Um, but you understand that he has lived a hard life because he is different than everyone else and he is disfigured and he was not going to be able to have a normal life. And so you do feel some bit of sympathy. And you also feel the sympathy because you know he's so deeply in love with Christine and he could never have her because of the way he looks and because he's the worst and kidnaps her. And so I think there is some sort of sympathy there that we get. I haven't seen the original Hunchback of Notre Dame, but I've seen the Disney version, and that is a character that, of course, is only seen as a monster by others and is actually has like the best morals of everyone in the movie, basically. Okay, so if there's any other fun stuff about Phantom of the Opera you guys want to throw in the trap, feel free to do that. But I am going to start moving on to Wolfman a little bit. So, Lon Chaney Jr. Well, first, before we even get there, let's talk about another second about Lon Chaney. So, Lon Chaney, he was born to two parents that were deaf and mute. Okay? And so he had to do a lot of pantomiming growing up. And that, I'm sure, was hugely influential to why he was so good in these roles and also in the silent film era. I found that so fascinating. That that's something that would be his career. Will probably started out just in how he had to live his everyday life with his parents. So that's very interesting. And then he also did have a bit of a rocky. That's an understatement, but a rocky marriage. His first marriage with Frances Cleveland Creighton. He was 22, she was 16 years old. They got married, and they had a son who was at the time named Creighton Toll Chaney, and then would later change his name to Lon Chaney Jr., at least his stage name. But Frances Cleveland Creighton had a lot of mental issues. I'm not exactly sure what they were, and their marriage was very, very chaotic. And at one point, he was still doing theater at the time. She literally, this is crazy. She bursts into the theater he is working, swallows a vial of poison. It was mercuric chloride, some sort of mercury poisoning, and tried to publicly commit suicide in front of him, which is wild and scary. And so after that happened, she actually didn't end up dying, but she was a singer and destroyed her entire vocal cords, and so she was unable to sing after that. But she did live, but they did divorce, and then Lon Chaney Jr. had to go to boarding school. So he ended up going to boarding school for 2 years while Lon Chaney sort of got his life back together. And then he eventually remarried Hazel Bennett Hastings, who was a chorus girl. And so that was only 2 years after his divorce from Frances Cleveland Creighton. And then so Lon Chaney Jr. got to come home at the age of 10 and live with them. I have no idea how much contact he had with his mother after that. Not sure, but it is a pretty dramatic story there. Okay. Okay. Also, hello, Anthropomantic Fiend. I just saw you there in the chat. Glad you were here. Ben also mentioned the sets being amazing, and that is so true. The Phantom of the Opera sets are extremely beautiful, and they were reused many times at Universal, understandably so. Okay, so... Okay. Okay. Lon Chaney Jr. Like I did say earlier, his original given name was Creighton Toll Chaney, and he didn't actually start acting until his father died. So he was born in Oklahoma. At a certain point, they did move to Los Angeles, and that's where he ended up growing up. But it says on his Wikipedia, which I think is pretty like a given, if you will. It said from an early age he worked hard to avoid his famous father's shadow. It says that his father discouraged him from going to show business. And so he ended up choosing very different life at first. He went to college to study business. He worked in a LA appliance corporation of some sort. I have no idea what his job was. And he got married. He had 2 sons. He had a whole life, you see. And so his father died from throat cancer, or was it lung cancer? Hold on. Lon Chaney. Let's see. Where? Death. It says he was diagnosed with bronchial lung cancer. Oh, God. I'm sorry. I have to read this to you guys now. Okay. During the filming, I'm sorry I'm so much on Wikipedia today, but I find this stuff so fascinating. Okay. During the filming of Thunder, one of his movies, in 1929, he got pneumonia. This is Lon Chaney, by the way, the dad. He was later that year diagnosed with bronchial lung cancer. And they found this out because there was artificial snow, which was made of cornflakes, lodged in his throat during filming and created an infection in his throat. Oh my God. Okay, it says despite aggressive treatment, his condition gradually worsened after 7 weeks. And 7 weeks after the release of the remake of The Unholy Three, he died of a throat hemorrhage. Dang. That is really shitty. Oh my God. So he basically, I mean, he might have already had cancer, but like this thing, he literally got this on the job. Oh God, that's awful. Okay, well now that we know that, okay, now that we know, so like I said, he didn't. Lon Chaney Jr. didn't start acting until after his father's death, and oh wait, sorry, lost place. Okay, so he started doing some like bit role, small parts. He worked at Paramount. He worked at Universal. He had a contract with 20th Century Fox. And then in 1941, he got a deal with Universal to be the lead in a movie, which was Man-Made Monster. I also do want to mention that when they did a remake of The Hunchback of Notre Dame, which of course his father was in the original, when they did the remake, Chaney did do a screen test. The son did do a screen test to play Quasimodo in the remake, but he did not get the role, unfortunately. And then he got this lead at Universal, and then from there he sort of had some bigger stuff going on. And then it wasn't until The Wolfman, here we are finally, 1941, that he started to become a horror film star, and he did other things such as The Mummy, Inner Sanctum, and others. He also played Dracula in a couple. Which ones were that? Let's see. Son of Dracula, 1943. And apparently this made him the only actor to portray all 4 of the Universal major monster characters. When did he play Frankenstein? Let me see. Oh, he played Frankenstein and the Ghost of Frankenstein. This is pretty crazy. So he played Wolfman, 1941. 1942, he played Frankenstein and the Ghost of Frankenstein. Then he played the Mummy in 42. And then he played Dracula in 43 in The Son of Dracula. That's really wild. Okay. Ben says cornflakes cause cancer. I don't think it was the cornflakes that caused the cancer, but I do think he got a huge infection that did not help the fact that he had cancer, and so he died. So that's definitely a bummer. Oh, and thank you for the likes, by the way. Okay. Let's talk. I liked The Wolfman a lot more than I liked Phantom of the Opera. And I think, like, maybe it's because it wasn't a silent picture and it was a lot shorter. But I just felt it moved a lot better. It had some fun stuff in it. Particularly, I did write down this quote that is said a few times throughout the movie, which is, "Even a man who is pure in heart and says his prayers at night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the autumn moon is bright. And something about this movie that I think is cool is that it really created maybe not created, but made popular a lot of the werewolf lore that we know today. Um, for example, the fact that you become a werewolf through another one biting you. Versus being born into being a werewolf. Death by silver bullet. And also, this, which I don't think we see very much today, but werewolves and victims marked by pentagrams. I don't think we see that much today, but that was also in the movie. Yes, so a couple of things about this movie before it came out. So, the project originally was planned for Karloff to be in, and then wait, why didn't he do it? Can't remember. I can't remember why he didn't do it. But it was initially made for Boris Karloff, the role of the Wolfman. I'm sorry. Just making sure I have all this info right before I talk to you about it. Okay. So I think a few key things about the film. Besides, we have werewolf lore that comes in that's really important, and then we have the transformation. So the original script was not intended to have a transformation scene, which is sort of what we're always waiting for in a werewolf movie, I think. Particularly, we think about American Werewolf in London. I think past that, everyone was like, well, how is anyone gonna do it? But if you look back at this movie, you actually they do a thing that was used in other werewolf movies at Universal afterwards, but this sort of thing of having an image where they have part of the makeup on, they switch, they keep everything really still. The actor go put more makeup on, sits down, does it again, and this one we see it with his legs, and each time he gets hairier and hairier. And then they sort of just lay the footage over so it transitions in a seamless-ish way to make it seem like he is, turning into a werewolf in real time. But this was like a pretty intense situation. So the makeup itself took about 6 hours to put on and about 3 hours to remove. So apparently Lon Chaney was not like a huge fan of Jack Pierce, who created the design for him. And apparently this design that you see in this movie was originally designed for a different film. Jack Pierce had already made this design for a different movie back in the 30s, and then they put it into this one. So, like I said, the initial script didn't call for a transformation scene because they thought it would be too difficult to do. But when they were thinking about the marketing of the movie, they realized that they didn't see the werewolf as a werewolf, because I think part of the initial thing was like, maybe it's all in his head, maybe he's killing people, but in his head it's because he's a wolf, but in reality he's just a guy that's doing these evil things. And I think you get a little sense of that in the movie still, that maybe it's in his head. I think you have some doctors being like, I can't tell you that werewolves exist, but I could tell you that someone might think they're a werewolf. Like, that's not the line, but it's like something like that. Like maybe someone's just crazy. And but ultimately they decide to actually do the makeup, which I'm really glad they did, because I think it makes the movie a lot more fun. And I'm sure this movie would not be as popular as it is without the makeup. So, coming back in the chat for a hot sec. Mark says goes and throws out his cornflakes. Maybe smart. Ben, this was the first time watch for you of Wolfman. I'm so glad you really liked it. Anthropomantic Fiend says they screw up the even a man who is pure in heart rhyme in the sequels. Interesting. Cool. Cool. All right. All right. So I don't know much about the drama in terms of Lon Chaney Jr. I know there was drama. He apparently was sort of a nuisance on set. He was drunk a lot, and he got into a lot of mischief, even though we're talking about like an adult man. But he apparently got into a lot of mischief and was drunk a lot and was a little bit difficult to work with. In the last two live streams of this month, I talked about the podcast You Must Remember This, where they talk, or she has a whole season about Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi, and in that she throws a lot of shade at Lon Chaney Jr. She calls him like untalented and a drunkard and like just making fun of him, and it's very, very funny. But apparently he was quite the nudist nuisance. What if he was a nudist? Oh my god, I'm dying. Okay, so. And even to the point where Evelyn Ankers, who played his opposite in this, she was given his dressing room before it even started because he was being punished by the studio. The studio would like punish him like bad boy because he had like vandalized all the studio property while he was drunk, which I just think is like, what? Like that's so crazy to me. But apparently he did that. So, okay. This is the sorry. Something else I think is funny about the movie. This is like the IMDb trivia section that I just know and love so well. But apparently there was supposed to be this whole sequence with a live bear. The only other animal we get in this movie is we do have him, when he first gets bitten by the werewolf, he's like wrestling with a dog that is actually Lon Chaney Jr.'s German Shepherd, by the way. He's like wrestling with a dog. But there was supposed to be another sequence where there is like a bear, like a live bear, and there's some sort of fight with a live bear, which is, I think, I haven't watched it, but in one of the things I read, it's in the trailer. Apparently there's some bear footage, but apparently the bear ran away, like from set, and they lost it. Like they lost the bear, and I'm just like, how do you lose a bear? I don't know. I don't know, but they lost the bear, and so they couldn't get all the shots they needed. So I find that to be very strange. Hollywood, what a place. The Romantic Bean says, if he was a nudist, Jack Pierce's job would have been way harder, and both of them would have been more miserable. I am very sure that is true. I'm sure that is true. Oh, by the way, Lon Chaney Jr. and his drinking buddies were known at Universal as the Monsters, and not in a good way, like as being like the monsters that destroyed everything and got too drunk all the time, which is also just, that's that. But Lon Chaney Jr., I don't know. I can't say he's a great actor. I don't think he, I don't think he rivals Boris Karloff, but I do think he does a really good job in this movie and makes a very memorable character. By the way, I don't think I said, but Wolfman was written by Kurt Siodmak and directed by George Wagner. Okay. Oh. Hello, Darling Darkness. Yes, I'm sorry. It's on Monday today. I know. It's just because I didn't want to bother anyone's plans tomorrow night. If you have plans, I don't really have plans for New Year's Eve. Travis and I are literally, do you want to hear what we're doing? It's wild. Okay. We're going to get some spiked seltzer. We're going to order, and should I be ashamed telling you this? I don't know. We're going to order Pizza Hut and Taco Bell. And we're going to watch like Seinfeld and hang out and be with Toby and do nothing. And I'm really, really excited about it. But yes, Darling Darkness, I'm sorry. I announced that this was going to be on a Monday like a long time ago, and I've been bad about following it up and reminding people. But I'm glad you're here now. That's very nice. Okay. So is there anything else about the Wolfman I wanted to mention? Oh, also, I think one of the most iconic props from the movie is, of course, the walking stick with the silver head on it. And it's funny because I feel like that has turned up in so many movies now. I even think about Lucius Malfoy's wand that he has in Harry Potter. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's okay. Sorry, there's an ambulance just driving by my window. Is it over? You guys should see the amount of times I have to pause during like filming. I'll be like saying a sentence, and then like like a siren will happen, and I'll have to wait. Or I'll be doing something. I'll be filming, and my neighbors will come home, and like I live on the first floor, and so they'll just walk right past my wall, and I'm like trying to be really quiet, and I'm like I don't want them to know what I'm doing in here, and then I start over. But it's a wild life doing YouTube in an apartment. Um, okay, so Ben, yes, I am going to be having White Claws. That when I said Spike Seltzer, I meant White Claws because it's the best. Um, Jay Donovan said, "Dude, perfect New Year. I agree." Andreas, staying home alone. Well, at least watch a really good horror movie. I think that's what's most important. I think that's what's most important to all of us here. And you won't be alone. Follow me on Twitter. I'll be on there. Oh no, Drawing Darkness. For a second, I like didn't get that. Is it over? I hope not. R.I.P. Random ambulance patient. No, I'm sure they're fine. I'm sure they're fine. I hope they're fine. I don't know. It's a big city, you know. All right, what was I even talking about? Wolfman. I liked it better than Phantom of the Opera. I liked it because it was shorter. It was a little snappier. I thought Phantom of the Opera was more beautiful. It definitely, like, the sets are beautiful, the costumes, the makeup, everything about it was more magical. But in terms of, like a quick, I don't want to say quick. In terms of, like, a fun watch, I feel like I watched all of Wolfman and was, like, in it the whole time. Whereas Phantom of the Opera, I feel like there was a solid, like, half of it that I was just sort of zoned out in. And maybe that's because it's a silent movie, maybe it's not, I don't really know. But yes, I also would like to know what your guys' favorite werewolf movies are. If you guys could give me some of that in here in the chat. I do like werewolves. I feel like I love Ginger Snaps. That's one of my favorite werewolf movies ever. But I know there are more that I haven't seen. Oh, what was that one I watched? Bad Moon. That one was cool. Yeah, I want to know. Tell me some more werewolf movies to watch. Um, let's see. And then, oh, Mark just mentioned, I did actually, that's so funny. Mark just watched Sweetheart on Netflix. I also just watched that yesterday. It was pretty cool. It was a good movie. Cool little monster movie. That's on Netflix, by the way. And yes, Ben, I am doing found footage next month. I'm very excited about it. We're gonna start. I know I typically start with like one that everyone's seen. This time we're gonna start with something a little bit different. So I do wanna. I'll actually go ahead and tell you the name of it now. Let's see. I've not watched it yet. It's gonna be. When is it? I'm gonna find it. Just hold on. Nor. I don't even know how to say this. Oh my god. I'm gonna have to type it in the chat. If you're confused for a second because of the time difference, sorry about it. I just want to double check that's the right spelling before I enter it. Okay. Yes, it is. All right, I'm going to go ahead and enter it. Boom. Okay. This is a paranormal expert vanishes while filming a documentary about an ancient demon. I'm pretty sure this one is Japanese. Yeah, it's Japanese. And the reason we are starting with that one next week is because we do have Lee coming on from Horror Pals, and I told him we were doing found footage, and I said, and he was supposed to come on this past month, but ended up having to reschedule, and I told him we were doing found footage, and he was like, have you ever seen this Japanese one? And I was like, oh no, I have not. So we're actually going to start with that one. I'm very excited to watch it. The reviews look really good for it. I am still going to try to get a trailer up for you guys. It might be really dumb, but I don't know if you guys like the trailers or not. I don't know. I'll do another one this month and we can just feel it out. But yeah, it's going to be found footage. That's going to be the first one. And then, of course, you guys will vote on the rest. So what are some of the ones that you guys have put in here? I did not know As Above, So Below was a found footage movie. I've never seen it. I didn't know that was a found footage movie. Interesting. Okay. So, and also some werewolf movies people have put on here. Cursed! No! Cursed is a terrible movie! Okay. Darling Darkness, kill that. It's a terrible movie. Okay. Dark Ross says The Howling and Dog Soldiers. I've never seen Dog Soldiers. I don't know why. I've seen The Howling. So I've seen a couple of The Howlings. I haven't seen all of them. Silver Bullet. I don't think I've seen that. I don't think I've seen that. Let's see. Jay Donovan says Wildling. Ooh, let me look that up. Wildling. Let's see. Ooh, I can already tell I like it just from the poster. Spoopy. Oh, it's from 2018. Why do I not know anything about this? Wow. Oh, and apparently it's feminist. You know I'm gonna love it. Okay. All right, well, definitely gonna watch that one. Scrolling down. Okay, Ollie, hi. Ollie stopped in to say happy holidays and happy New Year's. No worries. I'm glad you're here. Thanks, Ollie. You're the best. You're the best. All right. Well, I think that's probably it for today, guys. I feel excited for the new year. I hope you guys do too. 2020. I don't know. I feel like it's gonna be big. 2019 had all these amazing moments that I'm so proud of, but also like was really hard in other ways. And for some reason, I feel like 2020 is like the light at the end of a tunnel or something. I don't know. But I'm feeling really excited about it. And I'm really excited about this channel and Horror Movie Club and all of you guys and all those things. So I think that's it. I will see you next week for found footage. I think all of January is just Tuesdays at 8. I'll let you guys know if anything changes, but hopefully that will all be cool. But thank you all so much for being here. And I will see you soon. Have a nice scream. Bye.